Hi everyone, Catalan Ben here, and today we're taking you through football flexibility. Now these exercises are going to aid injury prevention, they're hopefully going to help you recover from injuries and are going to increase your overall flexibility for your football. Today's routine is going to concentrate on your lower body, and it's going to be some deep stretches and yoga poses that are going to improve your flexibility and try to strengthen your lower body. Now these exercises can be done by people with a high level of flexibility or a low level of flexibility, but all the exercises today, we're going to take you through how to do them no matter what your level is. My top tip for today is to avoid putting yourself through too much pain. If you feel sharp pains or you feel an extreme amount of discomfort, then stop the stretch and either modify it or skip that stretch and move on to a different part. We don't recommend that anybody goes through stretching that's causing extreme pain, as you could be causing further damage. So let's get into stretch number one. It's going to improve the flexibility of your feet. Now the feet are usually ignored by a lot of stretching programs. You need to make sure that your foot is stretched as well as your legs. So the first one that we're going to do, we're going to start on our knees just here. We are going to curl our toes underneath our ankles just like this, and then we're going to sit back onto our heels and just stretch the bottom of the feet there. Now you just need to hold that pose for 30 seconds. But don't hold it for any longer than that. If you can't hold it for 30 seconds, that's okay. Just get as close to 30 as you can. You should feel a pull just along the bottom of the foot and around the ball of the foot, and that helps you know that you're stretching. If you don't sit far back enough on your heels, you won't feel this stretch. So make sure your body weight comes onto your heel, and that will stretch correctly. Hold that for 30 seconds. Okay, now stretch number two, we're just going to change from that curled toe position to a flat toe position. This is going to stretch the top of the foot. And we're now trying to stretch just along the top. We're going to sit down again back onto those heels, try and keep the back nice and straight. That's really important today. We keep the back as straight as possible while we're doing these stretches. You'll feel that just in the top of the foot, along that metatarsal. The ligaments along the top of the foot are now getting stretched. And just to hold that again for 30 seconds. Okay, so on to the next stretch. Now, as we said at the beginning, we're going to work our way up from the bottom. So we start with the feet. We're now going to start to work on the calves, which is the back of the leg just here. You'll feel that muscle just below the knee, and that's what we're now going to stretch. So I want you to go up onto your hands. You're going to have both palms flat on the floor. We're going to raise ourselves up with both feet still on the floor, and I want you to cross your feet over so that the left foot comes behind the right foot. And now try and sink that heel down into the floor as far as you can. If you can't get it all the way to the floor, that's okay. Just stretch as far as you can and try and sink that heel. You'll feel that in the calf now. We're just stretching one calf at once, so this left foot is not stretching. It's just on the right leg for now. Hold that again for 30 seconds, and then you're going to change over. The left foot now on the floor, the right foot again crosses over and comes behind, and get this left heel as close to the floor as you can, and that's going to stretch out that left calf. Just ease into the stretch nice and slowly. You don't have to put the heel down all the way straight away. Just gradually try and lower it. And remember to keep breathing big, nice, deep breaths. Help oxygenate those muscles as they stretch. And again, hold that for 30 seconds. Okay, so that's the calf stretch done. So now we're going to move on to the quad stretch. So the way that this one works, you might have seen a quad stretch before where people are stood up and they hold up here. What we're going to do is do this one laid down. So what I want you to do is stretch the left leg out in front, the right leg, the knee's going to bend, and you're going to bring your foot out to the side just like that. You're going to grab this ankle and you're going to pull it as high as you can. And then you're going to use your foot sticking down into the floor to try and hold that position without the hand. So pull that as far as you can. You're trying here to try and get the ankle right up to the glute. Try and touch the ankle against your bum cheek just there and hold that. Again, hold that for 30 seconds. If you get any pain in the knee here, we're going to need to modify the stretch and do the stood up quad stretch. If you don't get any pain, if you feel okay, just keep that stretch. You'll feel it down the side of your shin just here, but you'll also feel it down the quad if you're doing this correctly. Try and push this knee forwards as much as you can as you pull the foot backwards. Swap over. So the right leg then comes in front, the left leg comes behind. A slight laid down position is okay here because then you'll feel it a little bit more. If you're sat up too tall, you might not feel it in the quad. So make sure we lay down, pull that left leg as far as we can. And there you go, you'll feel that just in the quad here, and you'll feel it just above the ankle as well on that left leg. Hold that again for 30 seconds, and remember, keep breathing as you exercise. Okay, now the next one, guys, is a bit of a classic. You'll have seen this before if you've seen any kind of yoga video or workout. Both palms on the floor. We're going to get our ball of our foot on the floor too, and we're going to push our bum as high in the air as you can while we push the head down. It's going to stretch the calves, usually known as the downward dog. I think, something along those lines. You're going to try and put the feet as low to the floor as you can. Try and get those heels down, not up, because if the heels are up, there's not much of a stretch going on here. So we're trying to lower those heels as much as we can. If you're really flexible, you should be able to get all the way down to the floor here. And then again, just hold that for 30 seconds. Now this stretches both legs at the same time, so you don't have to redo that on the left foot and the right foot. It's just going to be one stretch for 30 seconds. So now the next one we're going to stretch the adductor muscles here, which is just on the inside of the hamstrings and around the groin area. We're going to use a wall or a sofa or any flat surface that you've got behind you here. We're going to put both feet against the wall. We're going to bring the knees out. Look how the knees are trying to stretch outwards here as far as we can. And then we're going to go down onto the elbows and we're going to walk those elbows in as far as you can and hold that in that position. So we're trying to get the elbows nice and tight into the groin here. If the elbows are too far forward, you won't feel the stretch. We're trying to walk those elbows as far back as we can. Keep that stretch as wide as you can. Try and push the knees slowly away from the body. And you'll feel that in your adductor muscles. Again, hold that for 30 seconds. And then if you can, this is not a necessity, but it's something to try if you can do. Try and take a big deep breath and push even wider if you can. So you're trying to really improve that stretch around that adductor muscle. So push it as wide as you can here. Big deep breath in, push wide, and keep breathing through that all the way through. Okay, now this is a slight modification on the frog stretch. I call this the Spider-Man. You'll get why in a second. So you're still going to have that foot up against the flat surface behind you, but you're going to get this left leg as far out from the body as you can, just like that. And again, we're going to sit down into this, try and get those elbows to the floor. You'll feel this around the groin area and around the adductor on this left side. And again, we're trying here to make sure that we push as far away from the body as we can, but don't do it to the point where it's painful. It's just a little bit of discomfort you'll feel here. If you feel like you can go a little bit further, deep breath in, and a little push away, and keep those elbows as close to your right knee as you can. Hold that for 30 seconds, and then we're going to swap over to the opposite side. So again, foot as flat against the floor as you can get it. Right leg's now going to come out to the side. Now you'll understand why it looks like a Spider-Man pose, right? So now we're going to go down onto those elbows. We're going to push that right leg away. We're going to bring the elbows in. Big deep breaths. Remember to try and keep your back as straight as you can. Don't be tucked under here. Try and keep that back nice and straight if you can. There we go. And again, hold that for 30 more seconds. Okay, now we're going to start to work a little bit higher, so we're going to work the hamstrings now. For anybody who's not sure, the hamstrings are at the back of the leg just here, the opposite of the quad basically. So the quad is the front, the hamstring is the back. I'm going to do this side on so you can see. Now this bit again, because we're working with different levels of flexibility here, take this stretch as far as you can, but don't try and overdo it, and don't be disappointed if you can't get the full stretch. So the way this one works is we're going to walk the toes out as far in front as we can. So we've got the legs flat on the floor. And the aim of the game is to try and be able to hold your toes at the same time as keeping the legs straight. Now, that's very difficult to do from here. It's easier if we walk the feet in a little bit, we grab the toes, and then we take them as far as we can. Keep hold of the toes through that stretch. And what we're trying to do here is take this V shape out if we can. So we're trying to get those legs as flat as we can. For my flexibility level, I get to just before the floor, and I can't get much lower than that. So I try and hold that for 30 seconds. Again, deep breath, push as far as we can, and try and hold that again for 30 seconds. If you're struggling with this one, just hold it a little bit higher up and see how far you can go. But again, don't be too disappointed if you can't get all the way to the floor, and definitely don't start from here and try and pull, because you might never reach your toes. So make sure we get those toes in the hands first, we pull forwards, and we hold that stretch for 30 seconds. Okay, so this next stretch, guys, we're looking at the V-shaped stretch. So the legs are going to start nice and central, flatten them against the floor, and then take them as wide as you can. Okay, now the wider the better here, but obviously because of the flexibility you've got in your adductor and your groin and your hamstring, there's only so wide you can go. So some people will be able to go really, really wide with it, some people won't. Just go as wide as you feel comfortable going. If we're really narrow, there isn't much of a stretch going on here, so we do need to make sure that we push that width as wide as we can, and then we're going to walk forward with the hands. So the hands on the floor, and just one at a time, just try and walk forward and lean into that stretch as much as you possibly can. Now when we're doing this, we're trying to keep the back nice and straight, and I've got an extremely tight left hamstring, so what I tend to do is walk forward gently until I feel that little bit of discomfort where it feels like it can't go much further, and hold it there, okay? So I'm just going to walk it forward as far as I can. You guys might be able to go further. and we're just going to hold that for 30 seconds. And once you've done that for 30 seconds, then try a second stretch and see if you can push that width just a little bit further, not a massive amount, but we're just going to walk forwards a little bit, and then we're going to try and push those legs even wider as we stretch it out. You'll feel it just in here, just around those hamstrings and adductor muscles. Fantastic stretch. You'll probably feel a lot of tightness there. If you ever get any back pain, you've probably got quite tight hamstrings, and I get quite a lot of lower back pain, so I tend to find my hamstrings are very tight. It's a great stretch for me to open things up a little bit. Okay, so for this next one, we're going to work a similar V shape, but this is a stood up stretch rather than a sat down stretch. So we're going to stand up now onto our feet, and then we're going to try and hold that V shape and bend the back forward, but whilst in a standing position. So start with your feet nice and narrow, just in here. Open them as wide as you feel comfortable. I think about there for me is okay, but again, it's going to be different for each person. Maybe pull the trousers or the shorts up a little bit here, because you're going to be leaning forward into this. So we're going to walk down onto the floor as far as you can go. Now, if you could get your palms flat on the floor, that's great. And then try and walk those back as far as you can. And hold that stretch. You'll feel that just in here. Again, you can see the V position. We're just trying to hold that for 30 seconds. And then we're going to go to one-handed. So when we go to here, we're going to walk this across and put the left hand onto the right leg. You'll really feel that here on this right-hand side. Hold that as straight as you can. Keep the legs nice and straight. Try not to bend the knees. Try and keep the leg nice and straight and get as close to this right foot as you can. And then come back up and then do another 30 seconds on the opposite side on the left foot, and try and hold that as low as you can. If you can really get down to the ankle, that'd be great, but again, with this tight hamstring of mine, I can't get much lower than this, but we're just trying to increase that flexibility a little bit at a time. Now, the next challenge here, this is a really tough one, but if you've got a good level of flexibility, you might be able to get to this one. So we're trying to get the feet nice and wide, we're trying to get the hands out in front, and then if you can walk those hands backwards and try and bring the hands just between the feet. Notice how the palms are now facing the opposite way. If you're really flexible, you might get to the point where the hands are back here with the legs straight, but what we're trying to do here is just walk those back. I get to the point where my hands just get between the ankles, and I can't take it much further than that, so I'm going to hold that, straighten those legs out a little bit, hold that as much as I can, really feeling that stretch here, and hold that again for 30 seconds. Remember guys, if you can get the palms right down here whilst keeping the legs straight, that's great. If not, just walk back as far as you can and use the floor for that little bit of resistance. Well done guys. Okay guys, well done. So we're going to move on to the next stretch. Now this one is, I like to call it the proposal. You'll understand why in a second. We're going to go one foot out in front, so down on one knee. Yeah, imagine you're giving out an engagement ring. And then with this back foot, we're going to use either a wall or a sofa, a couch, anything you've got there that's going to be able to hold this leg as high as you can. So what we're trying to do here is try and hold both at the same time. We're going to walk this just up the wall just there, so we hold that there, and then we're going to get that leg out in front just there. Now for this one, you might feel a little bit of a pull to this side on your balance because there's a stretch going on that left leg. Try and sit as straight as you can. You can maybe hold the arms out a little bit. You'll really feel this down the quads, okay? Now, the aim of the game here is to try and sit back into the stretch. So if we're leaning forward like this, you won't feel that much of a stretch. Try and keep that back nice and tall, push back as far as you can to the wall, and that's really going to improve that stretch there. If we lean forward slightly, the stretch gets a little bit easier. Big deep breath. Try and push back, and as you push back, you'll really feel that in the quad. Try and hold that for 30 seconds, or if you can hold it for 10, and then increase the stretch by moving backwards, hold it for 10, and then increase again. Then we're going to swap over to the opposite foot. You may want, I'm working out on a carpet today, but if you're working out on a hard floor, you may need some sort of padding, yoga mat, something like that, just because there's a lot of strain on the knee here on a hard surface. So again, we're going to go the opposite way. I like to get my foot up onto the wall first, get the knee as close to the wall as we can, and then we walk that foot out in front. And then again, use the arms for balance if you need them, and we're going to push that as far as we can. And the further you can sit back into that stretch and bring the back towards the wall, the better the stretch is going to be. If you're out in front, you won't feel the same benefit here. So we're just trying to lean back as far as we can. And again, the closer this knee is to the wall, the further the stretch. Adjust it for your flexibility level. If you need to come a little bit further away from the wall when you do the stretch, that's okay. But try and get to the stage where your knee's getting very close to the wall. As you lean back into it, you'll feel that in the quad. Again guys, hold the stretch for 30 seconds, keep breathing, and keep the exercise going by oxygenating the lungs. The more oxygen you've got, the easier the stretches will be held for those 30 seconds. If you don't get to 30 seconds with any of these stretches, that's okay. Just get as close to 30 as you can and try and improve that hold on your next workout. Okay guys, so for this next one, we're going to go down onto both knees. We're going to keep the left knee on the floor. The right leg is going to come up. So we're flattening into like a lunge position. Now with this lunge, what we're trying to do here is push the hips forward as far as we can, but we don't want to overstretch with the leg out in front. If the leg's too far and the foot's no longer flat on the floor, that's not going to work. So we're trying to keep the foot flat on the floor here, and then we're going to push with those hips and lean forward into that as far as you can. Keep the back straight here. We don't want anybody leaning forward. Keep the posture nice and straight and lean forward. You'll feel this in this left quad just here. You might feel a little bit in the hamstring if you're tight around that area. Don't push with the hands here. This is not a real push where we lean our whole body weight onto the right leg. We're just using the hips to push forward. So we're going to push from the hips from there and hold that for as long as you can. Again, you'll feel that just around the quad here. You might feel it a little bit in that right glute as well. Just push that, hold it for 30 seconds. Remember to keep breathing. And if you can really push that stretch for that last 10 seconds, that would be fantastic. And then again, as always, we're just going to swap sides. I'm going to swap positions just so you can see. So heel just up off the floor, toes down on the floor, left leg out in front. We're going to lean in with those hips. Don't do this, that makes the stretch that little bit easier. Try and keep those toes underneath the ankle. And again, we're going to push forward from there. Don't lean in with the hands, try and lean in with the hips. Keep the back as straight as we can. Try not to lean forward. Big deep breath, lean it in there. There we go, you'll feel that just in here around the hips if we're doing that stretch correctly. Well done guys, again, hold that for 30 seconds. Make sure we've done both sides and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so we're maintaining this lunge position for this one. So the back leg is going to be the same position. The front leg now, I'm going to do this forward to the camera so you can see this. So we get into this lunge position and then we're going to open, I call this opening the door. We're trying to open the door as wide as we possibly can. Okay, now if you can get this to 90 degrees to your body, so you're facing forwards, and we'll open out at 90 degrees, that's excellent. For players who play a lot of football and pass the ball with the inside of the foot, you'll probably be used to this position with that open groin as we execute a pass. What we're going to try and do here is lean forward into this a little bit and keep that door open all the way. So again, we're going to start with the left foot down. We're going to start with the left knee down. Right foot comes up, lean forward, and as you start to lean, we're just going to try and open that hip as far as we can and then lean into it, just like that. Now again, when we say lean, we're leaning from the hips, we're pushing the hips forward, we're not leaning from the back. That disengages the stretch. We've got to make sure this all stays engaged, core engaged. Nice deep breaths. The further back you can take this foot, the better. So if you can take that maybe even slightly beyond 90 degrees, that'd be excellent, and hold that again for 30 seconds before you swap sides. Now the right foot is going to come back, the left foot is going to come in front. Again, we're going to open the door, we're going to lean forwards into it. We lean from the hips, remember. You can even use the hands a little bit just to push those hips forward as far as you can. And then again, if you can open that door even further, I've got quite good flexibility around my groin area, so I get slightly beyond 90 degrees. If you can't quite get beyond 90 degrees, that's okay. Just go as far as you can for your flexibility level. There you go. Hold that for 30 seconds. Again, bring that back in. And I always like to just shake my legs out a little bit after that because the groins can start to feel a little bit achy after a stretch like that. Okay, so the next one here, guys, is called the figure four. Now, the figure four is very simple. Basically, the ankle of one foot just comes above the knee of the opposite foot, just like that. You should see like a number 4 symbol. I'll show you this one stood up so you can see that number 4 quite clearly. So that's the position that we're going into, okay? Now, when you're down into that position, I'll show you from the side here so you can see it. So when you're into that position, you're going to then bring up the left knee, and that's what's going to pull your right leg into your body. So we're going to pull this left knee as high as we can. I'm going to lean back a little bit here and pull that knee up. You see that? So that holds that figure 4 position. If you can, with your balance and with your flexibility, we're going to try and wrap the hands around this left knee. So as we get down into this position, we're going to wrap the hands around the knee and pull that knee in towards your chest. You'll feel this around the hips, you'll feel this around the glutes. It's a fantastic stretch, this one. It really, really pushes how far those tendons and muscles can go. Just like that. Hold that again for 30 seconds, then we're going to swap feet. Excuse the dog hairs on the bottom of my socks there. So we're going to go left foot above the knee. Make sure you get into that position before you lean back. So we get into that position, we go back into that leaning position, we bring the right leg up And then again, we're going to hold that right knee, we're going to pull it in towards the body and hold that for 30 seconds. If you can hold this even lower, so if you can bring your left foot down a little bit further, that will increase that stretch even better. Big deep breaths, 30-second hold, and we'll go from there. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is similar to a figure 4, but this is a standing position. So this one's quite difficult to test the balance. You're going to need a little bit of core engagement here where you're holding those abs in just to make sure we get the balance right. So we're going to go into this position, try not to use the wall, trying to lean against that. So try and go right foot into this position. We're going to grab it with the left hand and we're going to pull that up as high as we possibly can and then hold that balance position. So I'm trying to get my heel all the way up to my groin if I can. If your foot can only come this high, that's okay. If you're feeling a little bit tight around that area, but now we're just going to try and hold this as high as we can. Use the wall for a little bit of balance if you need it. I had a bit of a wobble there, but once you get into that position, try not to use the wall and try and hold that position as high as we can. So if you look here, we're going beyond the number 4. That's the figure 4 where we've got the knee in that position. We're trying to make sure that we go beyond that, go as high as you possibly can. Use that arm for a counterbalance if you need it. And then we're going to swap over, same thing. Spread the toes as wide as you can to help with your balance so you don't wobble here, just like that. And then we're going to get up into that position, going to let go of the wall. So I'm holding the balance, I'm tensing the core, I'm engaging that core as much as I can as I'm holding this stretch. Again, 30 seconds if you can. You can do it in 30 seconds if you're losing your balance. 2 sets of 15 is absolutely fine. Okay, now the next one is going to help for the lower back. It's going to work the glutes a little bit as well. It's one of my favourite stretches. I call this the mermaid. So you're going to walk down into a laying down position, just like that. Get your back nice and flat, chin just to the floor, hands out in front. Then from these hands, we're going to push, but we're not going to move the hips and we're not going to move the feet. We're going to keep everything as flat to the floor as we can, apart from the back. So we're going to lift from there and get as high as you can. Now, the further back you walk your hands, the higher you should be able to go. So if you're struggling to get the back up, it's because your hands are probably too far in front and you can't push from there. So if you push from here and then walk it back as far as you can, and again, try and keep the hips pushed down into the floor, but push the head up. Look how the chin comes high, and you'll really feel that in the lower back. Now, I get quite a bit of lower back pain when I'm playing football or shortly afterwards, so I try and really work this stretch as often as I can. Helps to stretch out that lower back, reduces pain, reduces hamstring issues as well. Most hamstring issues come from that lower back area. And again, hold that for 30 seconds. That's just a single stretch. There's no 2 sides on that one, so just hold that for 30 seconds. If you're feeling a bit of lower back pain, you want to revisit that one, maybe do 2 sets of 30 because that will really help to stretch out that lower back, which, like I said, can be the cause of a bit of discomfort for a lot of players. Okay, so the next one, really simple one. This is called the child's pose. Now, the child's pose is probably known as that because it looks a little bit like a child who's thrown a tantrum in a supermarket, I suppose. So we're going to go down into like a prayer position. We're going to get those hands out in front. We're going to tuck the head down and under, and then we're going to push the bum back, and we're going to push the hands forward. So we're really trying to stretch. Now, what I tend to find here to improve this stretch is I try and push my shoulders down. So if you find that you're in this position here and the head's down but the shoulders are up, it's not going to work. We're trying to sink those shoulders down as low as we possibly can. Just going to move my hat a little bit. And you'll feel that from there. You'll feel this slightly in the middle of the back. You might even feel this a little bit between the shoulder blades as well. If you've got a bit of tightness there between the shoulders, and try and push your bum back on this stretch. Now, one of the main things to do here is to make sure that we start nice and tight. So when we do it, we come into a really tight position here, and we start to push the bum back, and then we slide out forwards, and we're going to feel that in the back. If you just flop down into this kind of position and then sit back, it doesn't really have the same effect. So try and start in a nice tight position, and then stretch yourself out as you do it. So we're on to the last stretch of the day here now, guys. This one I call the crossover. So the right foot comes in, left foot comes in. Just a really simple seated position. Now, the organisation of your feet here does make a difference to the stretch. So if you've got your left foot underneath, just like that, so the left foot's in front, but it's underneath the right leg, then as you stretch this out, you're going to feel it on the left-hand side. If you swap the feet over, so that the right leg is then the one in front, then again, as you stretch it, you'll feel it on the opposite side. So it does matter here, even though it looks like a single stretch, it's actually a 2-sided stretch this. We have to make sure we do it on both sides. So really simply, I'll show you from the side. We go right leg underneath, left leg under there, And we're just gonna, again, walk forward, keep the back as straight as we can, and walk that forward just to there, stretch as far as you can. You'll feel this in the hips, the glutes, the lower back. There's a lot of stretching going on here if we're doing this correctly. If we bend the back, this is no good for the posture, so try and keep that back as straight as possible. There'll be a little bit of bend, but the less bend, the better in your back. So try and keep that back nice and straight. Walk that out as far as you can. Really try and pull with your fingertips. Imagine you're dragging along the carpet, try and pull with those fingertips, and that'll just help to increase the stretch. We don't want the hands sliding back. Again, make sure that with this stretch, after your 30 seconds, you're going to swap the feet over, just like that. And then again, we're going to walk that out forward and stretch that lower back. I'll do it from this side so you can see. So the right leg's tucked under nice and tidy under there. Legs stay crossed. We walk out in front. We keep the back as straight as we can. I can really feel that here on this left-hand side in the glute. Just like that. And hold that again for 30 seconds. Remember, with all these stretches, guys, we're trying to increase flexibility a small amount at a time. This is not something where just after a few stretches, you're going to suddenly find that you're much more flexible. Flexibility is like an elastic band. You can't just pull it. If you pull it really hard straight away, it will just snap. We have to slowly pull it out, and that increases the elasticity in your muscles, and that elasticity in your muscles is then going to give you a greater range of flexibility. But it's something that takes a lot of time. If you're doing this exercise and you're following along with it at home, don't just do it once a week or once a month. Try and do this at least 2 to 3 times a week. Most professional football players are stretching before and after training sessions. And you'll even have seen, if you've been watching videos online while the lockdown was going on, you'll have seen that players are actually doing this while they're at home. It's one of the main things that they're trying to do to keep flexibility, because as much as you can work on your speed and work on your skill while you're at home with the ball, one thing you will lose massively when you stop training is your flexibility. So if you're looking to either increase your flexibility or just maintain it because you've stopped training, then these exercises will be fantastic for you. A massive thank you for watching today, guys. Hope you enjoyed those exercises. Hope that you've improved your flexibility just from today. And remember, next time, try and push yourself a little bit further. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't done already, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.